Welcome back to the deep dive. We are so glad you, the learner, are here with us again. Because today, we're talking about something that is probably pulling you in completely opposite directions every single day.
Oh, absolutely. The modern workplace it's pulling everyone apart right now.
Right. Like you're expected to be this fiercely decisive, visionary leader, but in the exact same breath, you have to be deeply empathetic, vulnerable, and totally detail-oriented. It's this relentless tug of war.
Yeah, and if you're trying to level up or you're preparing for a transition or honestly just trying to survive management without losing your mind,
It's exhausting.
it is entirely exhausting. You try to hold both of those extremes at the same time, and the cognitive load is just immense.
Which is exactly why our mission for this deep dive is to shortcut your path to becoming a highly effective leader. One who doesn't just, burn out by trying to be everything to everyone.
Right.
And we are pulling all of this from a single, really potent source today. Sally Netherwood's book, Graceful Power, Solving the Paradox of Modern Leadership.
Yeah, and that core concept is right there in the title, right? Graceful power. But we need to be really clear about definitions here from the jump.
Yeah, definitely. Because it sounds like a softening, right?
Exactly. That's the knee-jerk reaction. People hear graceful attached to power, and they assume it means like avoiding tough calls or lowering your standards just to be nice.
Right.
But the text argues the exact opposite. Graceful power is a strengthening. It's a framework rooted in three things: congruence, courage, and compassion.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand why this framework is so important, we have to look at what happens when this balance goes wrong.
Oh yeah, the impossible expectation.
Exactly. And the traditional, completely exhausting ways we usually try to survive them.
To really get the scale of this paradox, the source brings up a massive recent event, the July 2024 CrowdStrike IT outage.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was absolute chaos.
Completely. It was a faulty update from a cybersecurity firm, and it took down something like 8.5 million Windows systems globally.
Flights were grounded, right?
Flights grounded, banks went dark, hospitals lost access to patient records.
That's terrifying.
Right. So put yourself in the shoes of a leader at one of those organizations during hour one of that crisis.
Oh, man. I can't even imagine.
You're expected to act with this rapid, firm decisiveness. You have to make massive operational calls to get systems back online.
But because you're a modern leader, you also have to be empathetic.
Exactly. You are expected to show deep, authentic empathy for the stranded passengers, the nurses working blind, your own terrified IT staff.
So you have to be the battlefield general and the therapist, simultaneously.
Yeah, and that dual demand creates an extraordinary amount of friction. And the traditional way leaders try to handle that friction is just through sheer brute force.
Which leads us to the story of Alan Barton.
Ah, yes.
The honey badger. The honey badger. So Alan was a project manager, and he actually called his own management style the honey badger.
Which is so telling.
Right, it's this ferocious little animal that'll just attack a lion. And Alan took that exact energy into the office. He attacked problems relentlessly.
He was highly effective on paper, right?
On paper, sure. Hyper-focused on delivery and metrics. But the way he did it was by micromanaging everyone with these exhaustive, massive spreadsheets.
And the text points out that the root cause of that wasn't malice. It was just a complete lack of trust.
Right. He didn't trust his team, so he carried everything on his own shoulders, working 6 days a week, filtering every decision through his own anxiety.
Because if you don't trust people, you try to control the environment by doing it all yourself.
It's like trying to drive a car by slamming your foot on the gas and your other foot on the brake at the exact same time.
That is a great analogy.
Eventually, the engine just burns out. You can't sustain that. He was burning himself out and he was burning his team out.
Even though the metrics gave him this illusion of success, he hit targets, he got promotions.
But then came the 360-degree review.
Yeah, the moment of truth.
That's where the engine smoke finally became visible. For the first time, Alan saw what his team actually experienced. And it was brutal. They hated him.
They felt completely stripped of their autonomy.
But to his credit, he didn't just reject the feedback. He admitted he wanted to fire everyone who criticized him, but he forced himself to pause. He chose to pivot.
And he actively incorporated trust and compassion into his style, which eventually let him transform waste and recycling services in London.
Which is huge. But the part that really got me was the human payoff for Alan.
Oh, at the Greyhound track?
Yes. So they're at the Walthamstow Greyhound track celebrating, and this waste handler, who had been there for 15 years, walks up to him. Alan is bracing for a grievance.
Naturally.
But the guy just looks at him and says it was the first time in 15 years that anyone had ever thanked him.
Wow, 15 years.
15 years. That is the difference between the honey badger burnout and graceful power.
But that really leads to the big question, how do you sustain that? If you're a honey badger, how do you not just slip back into those old habits when things get stressful?
Right, because you can't just fake being nice.
No, the author argues you absolutely cannot fake it. It requires deep internal alignment. The book calls this congruence, and it starts with emotional mastery.
Okay, congruence sounds like a great buzzword, but practically speaking, what does that mean?
It means your internal values, your inner beliefs, and your outward actions are totally aligned. You aren't putting on a fake leadership persona when you badge into the office.
Because maintaining a facade takes way too much energy.
Exactly. When you're congruent, leadership is just easier to execute, and honestly, you become much easier to follow.
Your team doesn't have to guess what mood the boss is in today.
Right. But to get there, you have to understand what's happening inside your own head. The book leans into the science of emotional granularity here.
Oh, like Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett's research.
Yes, and the How We Feel app. The idea is that if your emotional vocabulary is just, I'm mad or I'm stressed, your brain's response is really blunt.
You have to drill down. You have to move from I'm a bit cross to I feel resentful and trapped.
Because if you can't name it, you can't tame it. High granularity actually reduces your amygdala's reactivity.
Wait, let me push back on this a bit, though.
Sure, go for it.
If I'm naturally a really stressed person and I drill down and realize I'm terrified about a project, doesn't being congruent and authentic mean I'm just going to pass all that panic right onto my team?
Yeah. That is a trap a lot of leaders fall into. They confuse unedited emotional dumping with authenticity.
Right, like walking into a meeting and just screaming, we're doomed!
Exactly. Congruence is not a license to just bleed all over your team. The author uses this amazing Buddhist parable of the two arrows to explain this.
Oh, the two arrows. I love this one.
It's so good. So imagine you're walking through a forest and out of nowhere you get struck in the chest by an arrow. It's agonizing. That first arrow is the unavoidable pain of life.
It's the CrowdStrike outage, or the budget cut, the actual crisis.
Right, you can't control the first arrow. But then the parable asks, what if a second arrow strikes you in the exact same wound?
Ouch.
But that second arrow is self-inflicted. It's your rumination, your panic, your self-criticism.
It's the story you tell yourself about the crisis.
Yes. Graceful power means feeling the pain of the first arrow. You don't pretend the crisis isn't happening, but you consciously choose not to fire the second arrow into yourself.
Or fire it into your team.
Exactly.
So once you stop firing that second arrow and you get your internal state aligned, then you have to look at how your presence actually alters the environment around you.
Yes, intentional impact.
The book shares this great Maya Angelou quote, "People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel."
That is so true in leadership.
The author suggests this practice of setting an emotional end in mind before any meeting, like deciding how you want people to feel when they leave the room.
Because your presence physically dictates the culture. We see this in the two case studies from the text.
Oh, the Dutch product design agency.
Yes. So these founders brought the author in because they were just incredibly frustrated. Their employees were always late, totally distracted, missing deadlines.
It's just a chaotic culture.
Right. But during the off-site intervention, the founders themselves showed up late.
Of course they did.
And while they were there, they were taking calls, checking emails, totally checked out. They were blind to the fact that their own behavior was creating the chaos.
Because humans mirror the physiological state of the leader. If the founders are agitated, the team's mirror neurons pick that up.
Exactly. Now contrast that accidental chaos with Claire Hornby.
The CEO of Me Plus M, the fashion brand, her congruence is relentless.
Relentless is the perfect word. She spends weeks literally walking the streets of Target neighborhoods before she opens a store there.
She wants to understand her customers that deeply. And that intentionality goes all the way down to the fabric.
Oh, the navy blue fabric detail.
Yeah, the brand promises reliability, so she makes sure that their specific shade of navy blue is mathematically identical across all items. Silk, cotton, whatever. It always matches perfectly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the lesson here is that the single greatest influence on a team's culture is simply the behavior of its leader.
So what does this all mean? Because if being intentional and congruent is so powerful, why do we all default back to the honey badger armor?
Well, the short answer is fear.
The fear.
Yeah, which brings us to the second pillar of graceful power, courage. And really, our biological misunderstanding of fear.
The evolutionary mismatch. This blew my mind.
It's fascinating, right? So 70,000 years ago during the cognitive revolution, human fear shifted. It used to just be reacting to a predator.
See a tiger? Run away.
Right. But then we developed the ability to anticipate threats, to imagine things that haven't happened yet.
And back then, staying in the tribe was the only way to survive. So social exclusion literally meant death.
Exactly. And our brains haven't really updated since then. Today, your amygdala treats a threat to your social status like giving a bad presentation, the exact same way it treats a physical predator.
Your body floods with cortisol, your heart races, all because you have to send a tricky email.
Yes. Your biology is screaming at you to put up a wall and look flawless so the tribe doesn't kick you out.
Which explains Annabelle Holt.
The CEO of which, during the 2020 lockdown.
Yeah. Her instinct would have been to project total, flawless authority on those webcam calls. To hide the fact that she's homeschooling kids and her laptop is propped up on old magazines.
But instead of projecting a facade, she showed her team the messy coat hooks in her house. She wrote newsletters about her kids interrupting her.
It must have felt terrifying biologically, but functionally it built immense trust. She chose vulnerability.
And to help leaders navigate that specific feeling, the author introduces these two Hebrew words for fear.
Pashad and Nora.
Yes. Pashad is that overreactive dread of imagined future threats. It's the voice telling you to stay small and hide your messy coat hooks.
But Nora is different. It's like the awe and terror of stepping into something bigger than yourself. It's the fear of expansion.
Right. The author tells this story about bungee jumping in Australia to illustrate this. She's 50 meters up, looking down, and she feels both fears at once.
Pashad is screaming, "I'm gonna die."
Exactly, but Nora is whispering, "I'm going to fly."
Graceful power is about recognizing the Pashad, but actively choosing to jump toward the Nora.
Yes, but, knowing you should jump doesn't make the screaming voices go away, so how do we deal with them?
Externalizing the fear. The book says we have two tribes living in our heads trying to keep us safe. The alarmists and the trolls.
The alarmists are the catastrophizers. They just scream that everything will go wrong, the market will crash, everyone will laugh at you.
And the trolls are quieter. They use shame. They whisper, "You aren't good enough. You're a fraud."
To defeat the alarmists, the author uses this exercise called full spectrum vision, because alarmists want you to only look at the worst case scenario, the catastrophe.
So you have to force yourself to look all the way at the other end of the spectrum, the euphoria, your highest hopes.
Like the story of Christina from the book. She was paralyzed by her alarmists. She thought if she led this new project, she'd fail and get fired.
But when her coach forced her to imagine the euphoria side, she realized, wait, if this goes perfectly, I could become CEO.
And just seeing that possibility completely unlocked her energy.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. What if you only look at the euphoria? Isn't that dangerous?
Yeah. Blind optimism, yes.
Like Jack and Gamba.
Right, those business partners who refused to plan for any conflict because they thought anticipating problems was negative thinking.
They ignored the alarmists entirely, and their startup suffered because of it. You need the alarmists to point out the potholes, but you use the euphoria to steer the car.
Exactly, so that handles the alarmists. But what about the trolls? The ones saying your flaws are permanent.
The until now shift. This is my favorite tool.
It's so simple, but so profound. Leaders always say things like, "I'm just a perfectionist," or "I've always had a quick temper."
But if you just add until now to the end of those sentences,
"I've always had a quick temper."
Until now.
It instantly separates your past from your future. It reclaims your agency.
It tells your brain, yes, that was the habit, but today I am choosing expansion. I am choosing Nora.
So to synthesize all of this for you, the listener, graceful power is not about being a flawless superhero. It's about achieving congruence between your values and your actions.
It's understanding that your physical presence dictates your team's culture.
And it's having the daily courage to step into Nora, the fear of your own expansion. So we challenge you to think about this today. What part of your leadership is currently being driven by the alarmists or the trolls?
And we want to leave you with a thought inspired by the Marianne Williamson quote from the book. We often think our deepest fear is that we are inadequate, but our actual deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Are you currently shrinking your own potential just so the people around you won't feel insecure?
What would happen if you finally gave yourself permission to take up the space you actually deserve?
Something to mull over as you step into your own graceful power today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Catch you next time.